You can also start recording. Anybody can do, host or
Okay.
co-host. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good evening, friends. I would like to introduce Professor Vipin from Amrita University. So I have been associated with Vipin more than 10 years now. So he has been the brand ambassador for open source community, building the FOSS community, and then during Sundays before sunset happened, we have we have been working on the Sun Open Solaris, and later lot many open source communities which he has built, and now they are very heavily involved in the building the community on the cyber security front. So let's hear more from Professor Vipin. What is that they have been doing, and then how they can contribute back to furthermore into the open source community, not just only the open source technologies, moving towards the CNF, Kubernetes containers, and things like that. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ganesh. So the title of the talk is Addressing Skills Shortage via Competition and Open Source. Not really sure how relevant it is for this group, but this is what I have. The agenda, we first define the problem, the shortage of employable and skilled engineers in the industry. Propose some solutions, what I have been working on at a personal level, using open source software for getting students industry ready, and using contests to develop student skills. And I will end with a few suggestions for both students, academia, and industry. The target audience is academia, both students, faculty, and industry. A brief about me. I'm an assistant professor at Amrita Center for Cybersecurity Systems Networks at Amrita Vishwavidyapitham in Kerala. I have 10 years of working experience in software industry prior to joining as teaching faculty. I'm also the founder and chief mentor of 3 clubs. One is FOSS, which is a club focused on contributing to open source. Team BIOS, which is India's #1 cybersecurity team for the past several years. They focus on cybersecurity. And Team Shakti, which is a woman-only cybersecurity team. Started also some, because I understood the value of contest for helping students develop skills. I started some contests. About 10 years ago, I started Amrita NCTF, which is a contest in cybersecurity for university students across India, for people who do not have any knowledge about cybersecurity to get started into cybersecurity. And the reason, one of the main reasons, is that we don't have many courses that are being offered in cybersecurity in various academia. Even now, that is the case. Not many universities offer courses. INCTF-J focuses on school students. This was started in 2015. And Shakti CTF and Shakti Con are started this year. They are basically international contest focused on women, which is organized by Team Shakti. That's my Twitter ID. So let's come to the problem of employability. Rapid pace of digitization and innovation that's happening, and increased use of number of products that uses software. For example, more websites are being built, more mobile applications, IoT devices, all of them require more software. There's a huge demand for tech jobs, but at the same time, graduates are finding it difficult to get jobs. Majority of engineering graduates are not employable, and there is a huge shortage of skilled candidates. So some statistics that we could find from the website: shortage of software engineers. This is in the US, they are saying 700,000 unfulfilled tech jobs. Various reports from the past 2 years. One is saying that 94% of engineering graduates are not fit for hiring. I'm not really sure whether that is the right statistic, but this is from the newspaper. And Capgemini India chief says 65% of IT employees are not trainable. That's a very strong word. And from the Mint, employability of Indian graduates jumps to 47% in 2019. But still, it's a very low number. So we can blame it on the education system, curriculum not matching the needs of the industry, route learning, and various other reasons. But what could be some of the solutions? And how do we help students in the university to develop industry skills both inside and outside the classroom? So from the company perspective, some common challenges faced by companies while recruiting fresh graduates. Lack of experience. So a lot of companies are expecting that there should be some kind of experience, and then lack of technical skills, lack of soft skills, either like communication, teamwork, leadership, work ethics. Most of these things seems to be lacking. And so for industry, why is this a problem? It's an issue because shortage leads to much higher salaries that needs to be paid, and also increased attrition rates because the demand is so high. So why are the graduates not getting jobs? One thing that I believe is because degree is not equal to skill. A lot of students may be believing that, okay, I have to get a degree and graduate, but that and skill, it is not leading to skill. So that I see is like one of the problems. So what skills are we talking about? So technical skills, we need, this is with respect to software specifically. It varies from, industry to industry. So writing clean, self-documenting code. So generally in the academia, when students are taught to write code, people write trivial code. Most of the time, students may not write code more than 500 lines of code maximum. And because maybe students don't understand the importance of developing skills, I know a large number of students, outsource their final year theses to agencies and pay money and do the final year projects. So they're not getting skills. They need to know how to debug code, reading large code base, writing codes greater than 1,000 lines, and typing fast. I can't emphasize this enough. Even when I worked in the industry, a lot of people have difficulty in typing. That leads to a decrease in productivity. So this is an essential skill. Version control, documentation, technical writing, these are some of the technical skills. And then the soft skills are how to present effectively, how do you communicate effectively, leadership skills, how do you work in a team, how do you resolve conflict, and different work ethics. These are some of the skills talking about. So for technical skills, there are a lot of platforms that are existing to help one get skilled today. So these are some of the platforms that there's no shortage of platforms for helping students to get technical skills. But in my experience, some of the students do benefit. If they are really motivated, they do benefit from it. But majority of the students, they need mentoring and support in order to benefit more. So the problem summary, lots of tech jobs are not getting filled. Graduates are lacking skills. They take more time to get productive, and they need retraining. So what are some of the solutions that I am working on? Because I have an industry background before I joined academia. Some of the solutions. So my background, I worked in the industry for about 10 years, both in India and abroad. Had an opportunity to move to academia in around 2005. And I wanted to experiment on how to help train students, specifically outside the classroom. My focus was in, helping to train students outside the classroom. So I was not really sure how can I do this. So basically, I discussed this with the Chancellor of Amrita University. She is known as Amma or Mata Amritanandamai. She's a humanitarian, and she has met the millions of people and talked to people. So she has a vast experience. So I went to ask her. So she asked me to make students compete in a healthy manner. She told me that when you make students compete in a healthy manner, it helps them to develop their inner skills. Everybody has the skills, but we need to bring out these skills. So that made me search for various contests that are there. So when I worked in the industry, I basically worked in software, and I'm not exposed to security. So I started searching for contests, and that's when I came across Sun Code for Freedom. And during 2006-7 period, Amrita University was also not famous. Today is ranked the #1 private university, but it was not so famous, and the students also had hardly any confidence. And the chancellor's instruction was that we need to learn how to make the ordinary to extraordinary. So that was something that motivated me. So I got a bunch of students, and using my industry experience, I helped train these students, and then they took part in this contest, and they ended up winning the first prize. What I also learned from this is that how students get excited when they do these contests. They work with a lot of interest and passion And this in turn, I can see that it leads to helping them develop their skills. So that introduced me to the world of open source. So when I was working in the industry, I was not aware of open source. So that is how my first exposure to open source was there. And then what are these benefits for, and how was open source helping to solve the various problems that we discussed? So suppose you want to learn a new language. There are various ways of learning a new language. Maybe, assuming that you know some basics. This is assuming that you know some basics and, you want to learn and improve your language skills. So maybe we could watch some good movies that will help, I learned some Hindi by watching Hindi movies. So, it helps to learn a new language. Also, if you read books which are written by authors who have very good command over the language, that also helps to improve the skills. So similarly for code, if you want to learn a programming language, one good way, if you already know to write a little bit of code, is to read well written code. And that really helps students to see that, oh, this is this is a good style of writing code, and this really I should maybe adapt this kind of style and use this. So that is the great advantage of open source, because we have access. Students who normally may not have access to industry ready code can see this code and then take inspiration from it. And contributing to open source, it also exposes large established code, industry practices, and expert development teams to students. And they get mentoring from community if they are serious. I have seen so many of my students get so much of support from the community and helping build their skills. And students gain actual work experience. So one of the problem was that how do we get students while in the university, while they are studying, how do we get them industry skills? So when they work on open source, they are actually getting industry skills. And then they also have an opportunity to give talks, writing blogs, working with teams, and they develop their communication, presentation skills, and leadership skills, and so many of the other soft skills. They take responsibility, and when they are senior students in the club, they also help to mentor their junior students. And so it's a nice situation for the students to learn various skills while they are in the college itself. So that's how we can use open source to do that. So what are some of these skills students are developing by contributing to open source? The version control system, this is ubiquitously used in the industry, but it is not taught in the academia. None of the projects use version control system. So it's a good way for them to learn version control system. Reading code and understanding large code base. So just like I tell my students, just like you're able to read a novel in any language, you should be able to read the code, whether it is Python code or C, C++, any language code, just like you read it any textbook. So that's the kind of fluency that students should develop. That takes time and effort. So by reading open source code, it really helps the students to understand, to read code and comprehend it, just like they normally read an English or Hindi book. Searching effectively, this is also very, very important, because sometimes they don't get all the answers by asking people. So how do they get this skill to search effectively? So this is also another skill that they develop when they contribute to open source, because just like any other skill, it takes practice and practice and practice to get good at it. So setting up development environment and testing environment, production environment, all these skills they get. Reproducing, bug fixing it, unit testing, integration testing, communication via IRC email. So I see that a lot of students, when they come first time, they have no idea even how to write an email, how to communicate and things like that. So in the club that that I run, students write status reports just like they are supposed to do when they join the industry. So they learn a lot of these skills while they are in the campus itself. Process of getting code merged, and also the soft skills. So these are all these various skills that are really valuable when they join the industry that they develop. So the second thing I mentioned was contests as a means of skill development. So there are two solutions that I was providing to the problem. One is using open source and one is using contests. So what I've noticed is that students, they need a well-defined task, problem statement, a reasonable deadline, and a reward or a recognition at the end of it. And this really motivates them. So contests offer exactly this and more. So some of the contests, this is not exactly a contest, but it's an internship, Google Summer of Code. But just like a contest, many people apply for it, and there is an application process. I'm sure maybe this audience is aware of it. And because of that, students, get motivated and get to develop some skills. So we also started some contests to help students, because knowing the value of contests, some of these contests are Amrita NCTF and NCTF Junior. As I said, these are contests in cybersecurity, specifically helping students to develop skills in cybersecurity. These are skills much needed by both governments and industry. So there are lack of courses, expert faculty in academia to help students to learn this, the content. And it's a very practical course also. So these contests is basically a gamified learning via what is called as capture the flag. So in this, applications are written with deliberate vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities are the most common vulnerabilities. For example, for a web application, there is something called as SQL injection or cross-site scripting, file upload, file inclusion. These are various common vulnerabilities using which an attacker can compromise a system. So we write applications that are deliberately vulnerable, and then the goal is that students find these vulnerabilities, and using these vulnerabilities, they get what is called as a flag. And when they submit this flag, they get points for it, and therefore some learning happens from there. So it helps to students to showcase their skills and develop their confidence. So far, 15,000 students from 22 states have benefited from INCTF, and it's an annual event that happens. So the other thing for helping students to develop skills while they are in college is hackathons. And this also gives a student an opportunity to apply their skills and showcase their ideas, to show them what. Also, when they go for hackathons, they see what other students are doing, and allows them to network with them and make friends and learn, sharing, learning, and things like that happens. They also see cool projects getting built in front of them, and they get motivated and excited. So they start to see technical skills with an application projects perspective. So that is really very important, that engineers become problem solvers. Even when I used to work in the industry, people used to discuss that, okay, this 2001 to that time, EJB, and these are like just like today how we talk about machine learning and AI. Those days, for J2EE and messaging, beans, and things like that, they were like the hot technology. So people just want to have it on the resume, irrespective of. So I feel that students should understand that technology is a problem, enables to solve problems, and students should be able to focus on solving problems, not learning technology for the sake of learning technology. So using it for being able to solve problems. So when I feel that when students go to hackathon, they'll see that, okay, for solving this particular problem, this is some technology that I need to use. And using all these, I have seen several students whom I mentor develop industry skills, and many of the employers, I'm in touch with them. They have told me that these are really good students, and they are able to pick up things fast and be very, very productive. And I've seen similar results with other contests as well. So my suggestions for students: you need to understand that more than degree and certificates, skills also matter along with that. And don't go after anything instant. This is the age of instant. Everything is instant. You see books like Learn Coding in 24 hours and things like that. But it takes skill, it takes time and energy and patience to develop the skills. And students should be willing to put in that time and energy, and don't lose focus and go after the buzzwords. Focus more on the fundamentals and basics. Be aware of the problems that are around you. Maybe you're passionate about certain problems. Maybe it is pollution, or drinking water problem, or any problem that motivates you. Take up a problem and then try to solve that using the technology. So be good that students make semester wise bucket list, which will help you to bring focus. So every semester you can say, okay, this semester I plan to, improve my typing speed from 30 words per minute to 50 words per minute. Maybe I will read this book. Maybe I will travel to this particular place. So making some bucket list, I feel that it will help you to bring in some focus. Technology changes rapidly, so focus on basics and not on buzzwords. So those, things keep changing every now and then. So you have to make yourself future proof by focusing on learning to learn. That is I feel, a key skill that is needed in the 21st century. So if you are put into a new technology, how fast can you learn it? So that's what I call learning to learn. So as you learn a technology, don't think that you're learning the technology, but you learn to learn that, so that when you move on to another thing, you apply those lessons, and then, you learn it faster. Fail early and fail fast. Take the risks. Many students that I come across, when they don't get into some internship, maybe into GSOC, I've seen them, very, very dejected. Maybe that's the first time that, they have experienced failure in their life. Today, I see that, many students are unable to take failures, but that's a part of life. And, everybody has to learn to go through these failures. So better to fail early and fail fast, and then take risks. Contribute to open source, join a club, and give talks. These are some of my suggestions for students. To lack of time, I am, cutting it short. For academia, I feel that in the academia, there should be a new faculty position called mentor, who will not have a teaching position. The position would be to motivate the students and help them to develop their skills. So mainly the mentor's job will be after class hours and during weekends. So I feel a position like that, if there is in an academia, will really, really help, because their focus would be into, helping students develop their skills. So no classroom teaching load for them. So then the other suggestion is to build technical student clubs and communities to facilitate learning outside the classroom. Yes, there is a lot of learning happening inside the classroom, but we also need to ensure that, students are interested and excited, and they have to learn outside the classroom as well. Open source should be included in the curriculum. For example, if somebody is teaching a subject on data structures or algorithms, every single student should, use the, have an account in Git, and then make sure that all the code is there. Similarly, if they're teaching networks, maybe, use the networking component in Linux, and then, tinker around with it, build some assignments based on these things. Similarly, for operating systems, compilers, and for software engineering, definitely every single student should contribute to, some bug fix. That way, they get to learn a little bit in practical about software engineering. Academia should also recognize and support students doing outside class learning. So that also would, really help. These are some of my suggestions for the academia. For the industry, they need to support academia by working more closely with academia to help nurture talent. Should look beyond immediate needs. So a lot of times they say, okay, we have an immediate need to hire this much, people with this skills, but we should really focus on long-term solutions, because the volume of, people needed is so high. So, everybody needs to sit together to think of some solutions. Help design standardized labs for core courses to ensure students have skills. The core courses, algorithms, computer networks, computer architecture, operating systems, and, various subjects like this. Industry should work with academia and, other experts, and design standard labs. While doing these labs, students should get skilled, and that would really help students who are interested, to learn to just do these labs. So here's to end the summary of the solutions I propose for the students. Remember, degree is not equal to skill. Take part in various contests, contribute to open source, give talks, write blogs. For the academia, introduce open source in the curriculum, provide bonus to students for contests, maybe things like, some attendance exception and, extra marks and things like that. Just like, for if you win in some game, maybe football or, something else, there are grace marks that students get in academia. So here in Amrita University, we give grace marks also because, our chancellor specifically mentioned, and we have implemented this in our university. The industry has to support the academia, work closely, and have long-term vision. and standardized labs for core subjects. So that brings to the end of the talk. Welcome any questions.
So, Vipin Prakash here.
Yes.
Glad to hear the shortcomings and the solutions you have been offering for the skill development. How do you see the change occurring because of the technology changes? Do you see how does it apply to Indian context in the sense that technology is coming from left and right, from China and US, and which are probably more suited to their environment, and how do we adopt it to Indian environment? Is there anything that helps in skills
I
development?
think I think we should have contests. So recently, when some of the apps were banned, that resulted in a lot of new apps being built and things like that. So similarly, if there are some some pushes there, some which will really motivate students, even from some of my students also had built some apps. They would have not thought about doing something like this, unless there is some kind of push like that. So I feel that contests like that will really help.
Okay, makes sense. And are there any other than that contests as another? What options do you see other than contests?
So the other options would be to figure out if we have faculty champions in various universities, and faculty has to be also sensitized and taken into confidence, because students come and go, but the faculty will be there. And so if a faculty can be motivated and to get trained, and they can really also help skilled, maybe we should also find one thing that I find about what I am doing is it is not scalable. So we will need a lot of mentors in every university to do something like that. So I'm not sure what are some of the scalable solutions,
So
because whatever platforms and everything exists, there are
if
some students who are motivated, and those students will do it, but a lot of them are not. They need that push, and that is where we need to focus on.
So is massive online courses MOOC a option for training the trainers like faculty?
Yeah, we some so most of the universities, the faculty is also loaded with lot of things. There is like some accreditation work, and so many other things also come up. So there should be some time there, unless the faculty is really motivated. I don't know whether they would go beyond that, do it. So we'll have to figure out how do we motivate the faculty to do it. So some of the universities, like for example Amrita, we also are working on that, and giving credits for faculty for doing things like this. So that has to be wider, the more wider adoption should be there for something like that.
So a lot of load comes on the assessment side of it. Can there not be a self-assessment because of the online courses? Some of the burdens to reduce.
Yeah, I'm talking about not just the student assessments. There is like accreditation will be there, like a national accreditation NAC, and UGC accreditation, and so many of these bodies are there, and so I think a lot of time goes in that when these accreditation comes and things like that.
Absolutely, I see.
Agree. Actually, we have education system which is more focused on syllabus, actually, and less on skills. I think you are doing a fantastic job. We have example here, and hope we will contribute industry and academic more closely in coming years with this OTF. Thanks, Vipin.
Thank you. Shall I stop recording?
Yeah,
Any
I
question?
also had one question if we have time.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was also like I am working with students as well for the past 3 years, and first of all, very amazing presentation. I could relate to each point which you said. my question here is, how does a college which is associated with a big university where they cannot make their own rules? I have visited a lot of colleges in different cities in India, and they say that it's difficult for us to get an approval from the university. We can do very little on our own level. So how do we solve that problem where a college is affiliated to a university and they have to kind of report everything there, and if they try to give this extra marks, or they try to kind of reduce the attendance power, they are like, we can do it on college level, but that is again, if the audit comes, we are we need to take care of it, so we are not able to pass on that benefits to the students. I'm telling you this from an experience where I've visited a lot of colleges which are majorly affiliated to different universities out there. So what is your suggestion in this scenario?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing, when any organization gets massive, then there is so much of structure and things like that. So that's where younger universities have an advantage. I do not know how we can change the structure of the older universities, which large number of colleges are associated. Maybe we should directly reach out to the students itself. And once the students understand that the skills are really important, and then maybe they would work towards it. But again, as I said, that I don't know how this is scalable. So for me right now, when we started the club, we had about 5 students, and now 100 students are there, and I'm finding it really difficult to just manage 100 students. So because a lot of students, they need constant support and motivation, and you have to not only mentor them but counsel them also. Of course, there are other students who are self-motivated. I'm not talking about that. There you don't need much. You just do one talk, and they'll be really motivated. But there is a point till which you have to push, after which they get motivated, and then they are on their own. But that takes in a lot of effort.
True. Totally makes sense. That's why I was also following this approach earlier, where I would go to students and then talk about the benefits, but then it would be more time consuming and it would not flow upwards. Like it would be like I could be able to impact 5 students, 6 students, 10 students, 15 students, not more than that, because it requires constant support to them.
At least 15 students or 5 students, I think I would consider it as good, because I know.
Please go ahead. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how we can scale it.
I had one idea where we could push it from top-bottom approach, where if it comes from the college. So see, that one very important observation which I did in lockdown was, if you see the MOCs, like the online courses, right? They are around 20 hours, 15 hours, 10 hours, right? And the completion rate of online courses is around, let's say 10%, 5%, 8%, not more than that. Like for most of the courses, even for the best course in the industry, the completion percentage doesn't go about 20%, okay, in the online courses. But if you see that online classes which are taken by colleges, right? Now that classes are like 8 hours a day, and people sit for it for complete 8 hours, and they would not budge. Like they would sit there even for the lunch, if it is extended, they would sit there in an online setting where the lecture is same, like it is delivered in an online fashion, but the students would be more inclined towards sitting that because it is coming from an authority. And even though they won't learn or something, but they would sit, okay, they would sit for 8 hours straight. So my thinking was, if we are able to push it from the top-down model, where if we are able to impact some faculties or something like that, that would be more beneficial to scale this approach. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't know how much that would work, because faculty may themselves want to teach. Many people may not want to. Oops. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
I'm getting feedback. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I guess someone has kept it on speaker. That's
okay. So yeah, if I try to talk to faculty that so suppose I am teaching a course and I know that somebody is much better, I would obviously want to just get students that better experience. But everybody may not think like that. They may there may be other thought processes going on. Will it impact their job? And if somebody is doing it like this, then do I have any relevance? Or maybe there is some thinking like that also.
Okay, thank you so much. Very insightful.
All right, thank you. Should I stop recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, if you could lend your email ID in the chat, that would really be helpful.
Sure.
So that brings us to the end of the event. So is recording stopped?
Yes.
Recording is showing up red here.
Okay. It was only paused. Huh?